Hey, my name's Stephen Hand from Archery Supplies, and this is the Prime Black 9. This is the target bow, 39 inches from Prime Archery. Now, what makes Prime unique is the twin cam system. So they balance the cam either side using twin cams. So you have a cam there and a cam there, and a yoke system here. This is unlike any other bow on the market. So most bows will have a yoke here or yokes here to balance the limbs. What Prime has done is they've split the cables here. So basically they've made two cams. Now, in 2022, Prime has gone away from this system for their hunting bows. It still exists for their target bows. So when I first saw this cam system, I was much younger, and I was at the ATA trade show, and I went up to PSE, Pete Shepley, and I said, have you seen the Prime twin cam bow? Which was around at the time. I said, this is a pretty cool idea. What do you think? He said, oh, we've already done that. It's we've got it back at the factory. And I actually went and saw the bow which PSE developed, which was like this, which is kind of cool. But back when Prime first had this bow, the problem was you couldn't adjust the draw length. So on this bow here, you can adjust the draw length. It rotates backwards and forwards. One of the first problems was the strings were hard to change. They were quite fiddly to get into. So the Prime's got a flexible cable slide here with rollers, which is kind of cool. I assume they still have it. String shop. The machining's always nice on Primes. A low stabilizer hole back here, and your normal one's up there, only one there. The designs, so this is the bottom of the riser. It's kind of weird how it goes out like that. I assume just for aesthetics. Metal limb pockets, quite wide limbs here. And this is your axle system, which is different to other bows. Short limbs like you'll see on a Matthews TRX. Now in Australia, these bows sell for about $2,100. There's none in Australia right now. Don't know if that means they're not making them or what. I looked in America, they sell for about $1,200. So that equates to about 1,800 Australian dollars. You've got to add GST on, which is 10%, so it equates to 1,900. Then you've got to freight them into Australia, so about $2,000 to freight one of these in. This bow's secondhand, and a customer sort of brought in to my store and said, what will I give him for it? And I asked him what he paid. So you see here, so something would have been put here against this, and I'm guessing it was a cable system for the RRS. So I'm not a huge fan of cable systems because you get this where the transfer comes off and people will look at that and go, oh, that doesn't look great. But overall, it doesn't look like the bow's really been shot that much at all. And I know the person who I brought this bow from or who I traded it to didn't actually shoot it at all. Now he's put on a little grip here. So this is like sandpaper. And he's sort of stuck it on. Someone told me what it was. Now the reason he's done this is because his hand slips on the grip. So when he's shooting, it might be his hand basically gets wet, or it might be a wet conditions and his hands are going to slide around. Now to me that indicates torque. So you'll see lots of people wrap their grips with like tennis grip tape, and it stops the bow moving on your hand. If you've got a good grip, the bow shouldn't be moving. That occurs on a recurve and a compound. So before you wrap your grip, I'd be wanting to make sure your hand grip doesn't change, because that clearly indicates torque and indicates you're going to change your shot every time. Okay, so quick specs on this bow that I can recall. 39 inches axle, brace height is 7 inches. It's got a big draw length, and I didn't know if that was different cams or not. So big draw length. IBO claimed to be 325, which is a huge speed for a 7-inch brace height for a target bow. Now, with the Prime, this is the dead center of the string as opposed to here. Or is it here? Here's the dead center of the string, the grip, which means this is off center. So Prime do different size cams, top and bottom. So most companies will have the same cam, top and bottom. With the current system, there's been different cam systems in the past, the single cam, the hybrid cam, to try and overcome this problem. Prime do it with a different cam, top and bottom. So, saying all this should be a 60-pound bow. Hoping it's a 60-pound bow. It doesn't actually. There's a serial number down the bottom here, and it's got the I assume it's a B9R60, so I assume that means 60 pound. String length of 31.85, cable length of 37.125, yokes 35.63, 32.88 and 17 inches. Okay, because you've got a yoke there, yoke there, yoke there, yoke there, so you've got different size yokes depending on which wheel you've got it on. I think that's going to allow people to get this wrong a lot. I mean, the number of bows we work on that have been worked on by the people that have been broken and stuffed around, it just does my head in. So putting the wrong cables in the wrong spots on this, I think is going to be a huge issue. You're going to see here that it's got little marks on the cams for timing, so that's like stickers he's put on. I don't know if he did that for little text marks. I don't know if he did that because the bow was out of time or whether the string maker put it on, because these look like new strings put onto the bow. Now Prime had a thing, I don't know if they still got it, where they give you a new string every 2 years. I don't know if it still exists. I don't know anyone who's actually used it, but strings on Primes are generally pretty good, and I would be using those. These are not their strings, so this is kind of interesting. This is like a plastic rod down here with the string stop. So let's try out the pound, let's try the draw, let's try the shot and see what it feels like. Okay, so this is my first draw. So I haven't drawn this bow back. I don't know what the draw length is. The guy who I purchased it from is about the same sort of size as me, I think. In my mind, he's the same size as me. He's from the country, so he might be taller, he might be shorter. I think he's the same size. Anyway, let's try it out. So the grip to me is really comfortable. It's nice. It fits in nice here in my thumb, the position. Not a fan of the sandpaper. It's got to hurt your hand. Okay, so it starts off really like it's not hard to draw a tool to start with, which makes the 325 just pie in the sky, in my view. So this is smooth. Draw length is probably a little bit longer than 29. I'm going to shoot this shot. The speed machine read 84 feet per second. Look, it's not fast. It's clearly not fast. When you shoot the bow, you feel this vibrate backwards and forwards. It feels very soft. If I was to guess a speed, I'd be guessing 290s. It's nowhere near the 324 feet per second. Now you've got cable stops here that you can move backwards and forwards to change the valley. Now this bow is obviously being adjusted a lot as far as, you know, draw length. Let's just shoot this again. .278, and that was with a VAP 350 with a 140 grain point, which weighs, I think, 390. But it's not fast. We're going to shoot, these are the velocities we're going to shoot next. These weigh 327, that 400 spine, 90 grain point. This bow has got very little vibration. You can feel the strings. I said it feels soft. It's nothing like your Hoyt Invictus, which are like hard to draw, hard to hold. They're aggressive bows. They're fast, very short valleys. This is a long valley, easy to shoot. In the shock sequence, it kind of feels a bit like your Matthews with short limbs, but the draw cycle is a lot softer than a Matthews TRX. The valleys are a lot longer. The Matthews is a lot faster bow, more aggressive draw cycle on the Matthews. So therefore you're down to the elites and PSEs, which are easier bows to draw. And I'm going to say this is probably easier than either of those bows, but I'm going to say it's going to be slower. 302. It's actually, it's actually not too bad, but I'm going to guess it's over 29 inches, so you're going to lose a bit of speed on that. It's definitely the slower of the target bows. Now, Pete Shepley from PSE, the CEO and the originator of PSE, the reason he said not to go for twin cams is it adds too much weight to the cam system and reducing the bow for no benefit. That's what he said to me many years ago. But I thought it was a cool system, and I like the system. I like cool stuff. I like people with new ideas. I like people with unique ideas. This is definitely a unique system. The different cams, it's unique. It feels good. This bow would suit someone who doesn't shoot a lot. Now you can say, well, can you shoot good scores with it? Yeah, you can shoot good scores with a recurve. But for someone who doesn't shoot a lot, the more aggressive bows are going to be hard because the draw cycle's hard. The valleys are so tight that if you let it down a little bit, it's going to rip out, and if you don't have good form, it's going to hammer you. This bow, I think, is going to be much, much easier to shoot. But it doesn't feel like it has the, I'm going to say, precision. It's clearly a precision bow, but it doesn't feel as refined as, your Elites and PSEs, which are your softer shooting target bows. So I'm going to say Elite and PSE, your softer shooting target bows. Your Matthews, your Hoyts are harder, more aggressive. This feels like it's on the far end of the PSE side as far as really easy. It reminds me of bows I used to shoot 20, 30 years ago. It's very easy, no shoulder pain, no nothing. I think I'll shoot this bow well. So let's take it back to 18 and see how well I shoot. Okay, so we're ready to shoot the prime at 18 meters. Now I haven't hit the 10, but I've shot about 10 arrows, and they're going to go in the gold, and I think I'm going to shoot this bow quite well. So let's just call this. Now, when I started shooting this bow, I noticed this bow was fitted with brand new strings. You can tell because it's got this here, and it's like, and then I'm like, I wonder who made these strings. But I'm not going to say who made it, because then I'm going to have all this hate stuff, and I don't want to just annoy people and have people hate me for no reason. But on forums, I often see, what strings should I shoot? And all these mates are on there like, buy this string, right? Anyway, so I'm going to just show you what's wrong with these strings that are made. And it's not to have the guy who makes them, it's to tell you the problems with these strings. And so if you're making strings or you're looking at strings, you kind of know what to look for. The first thing I noticed was this here. You see this cable, it's right next to the roller slide. This is too far towards the roller slide. It needs to be up here. If this unravels, you can't shoot anymore. So it needs to be up here. That's the first thing. This cable's pulling up, but this is too close to the roller. So that's the first thing I noticed. Then you look at, like down here where it goes over the loops. The serving's all pulled apart. These are brand new strings, right? So the serving's pulled apart of that. Now I've seen this, you see it all here where they're pulling apart here. Look, that's a common thing, and I'm not going into strings. But my biggest pet peeve is with a string, you want it to be circular. So the string's got to be circular. And the way you do that when you make a string, you grab a whole bunch of fibers, like a whole bunch of strings, and you rub it up and down the string to make the string completely a circle. So you want, if you've got a string, you want it to be a circle. You don't want it to be a rectangle. These strings here, I'm hoping you can see, are rectangles. So what's happened is he's put it on he's run it around and round to get the size, twisted it, and then he served it. You need to rub it. You need to rub it backwards and forwards and bind the string. I think it's called burnishing or something like that. But basically you rub it in, you make all those fibers into like a round circle so they're all tight together before you start serving. Now the problem with a string like this is when I look through the string or whatever, there's a few problems, but when you look through this string, it's not symmetrical because it's a rectangle. So sometimes it comes back, it's like that, sometimes it's like that. So I get a different sight picture. Now some people will say it'll shoot different. I don't think it will. But just when you make a string, just burnish it. Like, it takes a bit of extra work, but it's not that much more time, and it's just such a superior product. Now there's some reasons why people don't do it, because the colors could run, or they need, when they burnish the string, let's say they're using red serving to burnish it, then the red will run into the grays and stuff like that. But like, this is like just not acceptable in my view. And like, if you're paying $130 for a set of strings, look, it took the guy 2 hours to make these strings, or 3 hours to make them, maybe longer, and then he's got to fit them. So it's all a matter of what you're paying versus the thing, and you might be happy with that, and you might be happy with these strings. I'm not happy with these strings. Now, when you go to buy a bow or you go to sell a bow, don't put new strings on it before you sell it. Like, it's like, I don't know how, I do know what he paid for this bow when he purchased it. So this is a $2,100 bow, and he paid $1,200 for it, which is, you know, half price. The bow's a year old. Look, but he's put new strings on it beforehand. So it's like, well, I do know how much the guy charges for these strings. I don't know how much he charged to fit them, but it means you're selling this bow for, you know, it would have been better to sell them with the strings on the bow, and then the person can make a decision about what strings they get, whether they get winner's choice, or what strings they get, whether they get the local guy to make them. Because I get this bow and I'm like, would I shoot these strings? Look, I probably would, because I couldn't be bothered to fit $300 set of strings to this bow, or $150 set of strings, or $200 set of strings to this bow that I've purchased. But I just wouldn't be happy, and I've already shot 12 arrows and it's already done my head in. So yeah, I'd want to fix that cable. I'd want to fix the main string. So I'm not happy with the yokes either, because that's splitting. It's not like the string's going to break. It's not like I'm not going to shoot well with it. It's just I'm not happy with it. So, and it's just, you know, like I said, it's 3 hours of the guy's time, the labor, and he's probably not making much money, but I'm just not that happy with it. So it is what it is. I think I'll shoot quite well. The bow's very soft to draw, very soft to shoot. It feels soft. There's no vibration. This bow would really suit someone who's a casual shooter. The bow weighs 4.7, so it's not light, but it doesn't feel too heavy. A lot of the other bows, you know, your Citations from PSCs, the Elite feels lighter. The Hoyts, the Matthews feel significantly heavier. This feels 4.7, but it feels lighter. So let's see how I shoot. And I'm not happy with the sandpaper. The problem with the sandpaper is I go to put my hand in the same position. I kind of roll it till I get that feel. Now I've got sandpaper there. It's like stopping my hand hitting the same point all the time. So I feel like it's actually inducing a bit of torque in my shot. But I so wanted that to be in the 10. Oh well. Let's see how the other arrows go. Now when you're shooting a compound or a recurve, whatever you're shooting, like you can shoot a recurve really well. Like last night I was practicing 10 arrow ends on the recurve, and I was shooting 8 in the 10 and 2 in the 9. I was shooting really, really well. Gets back to volumes, and I don't see any reason why I couldn't shoot this bow well. I'd want to shorten the draw length, probably half an inch. The bow's very stable in my hand, so when I'm aiming, like the sight pin just sits in the 10. Now on that, there's a couple of people in Australia sponsored by Prime. I believe they're sponsored by Prime. What's also interesting on Prime, every shop in Australia had this bow at exactly the same price. No one's got it in stock, but at exactly the same price, and I'm like, that's weird. Now those sponsored shooters, you hear that they're the greatest archers in the world, and that's no disrespect to them. I probably sound like I'm patronizing them. I'm not. It's just they're sponsored. I don't hear anything about the bow. Nothing about the bow. It's just like, look how good I am. It's like, okay, yeah, you're a good shot, but you'd be good with any bow. And the fact that they switched from bow company to bow company and they're still a good shot, it doesn't say anything about the bow. This bow, the grip feels really nice, the vibration's nice, Very happy with the grip, really like it. It aims very well. The weight to me feels good. I really like the lower stabilized position. I like another position here. I think it'd be a solid bow. I don't see you'd have any problems with the prime bows. Like when you shoot it, this is nothing. It's just... Now, some of the bows, the PSEs, when you shoot, they've got a little bit of a vibration forward because the limbs aren't parallel. You see these limbs, they're not really parallel, but they're quite short, very much like the Matthews. And I'm going to say the Matthews probably has less vibration forward, but there's more vibration in a Matthews because it feels like it's coming out a lot faster. This bow feels slow, very predictable. It's just you shoot, like there's a guy at one of the other archery clubs who brought a new bow the other day. I'm going to say he's not the greatest archer, and that's no disrespect to him because he shoots all the time, nice person, we're friends, but the thing is he's not good enough archer to have an elite bow, and that doesn't mean you shouldn't have an elite bow. It doesn't mean that. It means it's hard to shoot. This bow is easy to shoot. This is the bow you should be shooting. A bow like this, a bow like the PSE Supra, the Elite Result, an easy bow with a valley, which is the draw cycle is easy, that just aims. Big brace height, big axles, like easy bows to shoot. This is an easy bow to shoot. It's just very repeatable. I'm not saying it's better than, you know, your Hoyts or your Matthews or your PSEs, or I'm not saying it's worse. It's just easy to shoot. Very, very easy to repeat the same shot over and over again. Well, that was me. And it probably went alright. When I was about to shoot, I kind of talked a little bit to the left. And that happens. It's like it was in the 10, and as it went off, so it was in the 10, and as it went off, my front hand kind of pushed it a little bit to the left. And the arrow probably went exactly where I was aimed. That's nice. So when I talk about bows being easier to shoot, this bow's easy. It's about, I can pull this bow back, it's not hurting my body. At 60 pounds, there's no pain. This is a very easy draw cycle. There's no easy to adjust rotating modules, which is what you want, so that way you can experiment with half an inch shorter, half an inch longer, an inch shorter, and see what happens with your scores. You can change the valley. You can go, well, I mean, I shoot with higher valley, I shoot with less valley than this bow. This bow, I'm probably guessing, has got 80% right now. Feels like 90, but I'm guessing it's 80. And I just don't feel there's enough tension there for me. It's not going to stop me shooting well, but I would shoot with less valley. And that's not to say you should. It's to say you can practice and you can try stuff. You just try. You experiment with low let off, you experiment with higher let off, and you see which one you shoot better scores with. Like I am so confident he would shoot with this bow better than the bow he purchased, which is over twice the price of this bow. That I would bet thousands on it, literally thousands. And when I say better, I mean significantly better. I'm not talking 1 or 2 points. Because like if you're an elite shooter, a shooter who shoots every day, look, you can shoot any bow. It's really, there's no difference in the scores. But if you're a shooter who shoots, once a week, twice a week, and you're not training, you're looking for a bow that's very forgiving. Bow that's easy, that's not going to hurt you, that you can just come out on the weekend and just shoot. That one I aimed a little bit. Look, I really like this bow. It's very, very easy to shoot. Repeatable. Alright, so what's happening is I'm starting to aim at that group of arrows. Instead of aim at the center, because there's a big cluster there and they're all orange knots. Let's go and take a look at how the arrows are on the target. Now, I clearly can't get my fingers around the group, but it's a pretty good group. I just need to adjust the sights, and I sort of said that before I started the video. I had a little group here, I had a group here, and I was adjusting it. And I didn't get it. I didn't shoot a 10. I did adjust it before I shot this round, and the arrows were pretty much grouped where they were then. So I was hoping it was going to go on a 10, it didn't. It obviously went in the same spot. And that's like, I just have a little cheap plastic sight and I just bump it a little bit to move it. If you've got a micro adjustable sight, you just click, 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 and it's much easier to sort of set up. But for this video, I just have a D loop and a little $30 sight and a whisker biscuit, and I shoot. Now that group is pretty good for the bow. Now let's get down to how this bow sits in the marketplace. At 2,100 Australian dollars, it's going to compete against your top of the line bows. So it's going to compete against your Matthews, your Hoyts, your PSC Citations, your Elite Results. The Elite Result is significantly cheaper. So that's the first thing. The Elite Result, I'm going to say it's got more adjustability, although maybe not. Yes, it does, because it's got a limb stop, it's got cable stops. You can adjust the valley to whatever you want. You can adjust the feel of the bow to whatever you want. With this bow, you just have the string stop. However, this bow is unique with the twin cams. There's not going to be many of them on the market. There's not going to be many of them sold. And I'm going to say it's going to be around for a limited time, because I'm going to guess next year Matthews Prime will go away from the twin cams and go to just a one cam for their target bows. That'd be my gut feeling. Saying that, I really like the bow. The machining's really nice. I really like the riser, the big long metal riser, the short limbs. Look, it shoots really nice. It's like a Matthews, but easier to shoot and more adjustable than a Matthews. So if you're thinking, well, should I buy a TRX? This would be a bow you'd probably want to look at, although it doesn't have the crispness of a TRX to shoot. And the first thing you're going to say is you're hating on Hoyt. No, like the Hoyt make a fantastic target bow. It's a really good target bow. It just doesn't have the adjustability that this one has. It's a higher price point, about $2,500, $2,600. This one, $2,100. And you can say, well, let's compare it to the Hoyt Altus, which is not a shoot-through riser. And you go, well, I'd probably pick this one over the Hoyt Altus at that price point. I think it looks cleaner and crisper, and I think it looks a bit more unique. I'd buy this over a Hoyt Altus. I think easier to shoot. So that's my thing. Look, the Bowtech is a unique bow. It's a very unique target bow with an adjustable grip. The Reckoning 38 is quite expensive, so it's up there against your top end bows. But you drop back to their cheaper bows like the Reckoning and stuff, which is 35 inches. It's a very similar price point to this. It's an interesting bow, but harder to shoot. I'm not going to say it feels harder to shoot. The draw cycle's harder. It's more It's more of a refined, polished machine than this bow feels. Then I go to your PSE Supra, which I think this bow stacks up to the most. The PSE Supra in Australia sells for around $1,800. This bow sells for $21. And this is the problem. This is why this bow is going to struggle, because the PSE Supra has got lots of adjustability, which this bow has, but you've got the ability on the PSE Supra to put high let-off modules, low let-off modules, adjust the let-off on the module. And there's just so many Supras on the market. So for, let's say, all the other target bows on the market sold together, the Supra is probably going to outsell them all 10 to 1. All of them. That's how big the PSE Supra is in the target market. So, saying that, if my dealer wasn't a PSE dealer and they didn't have PSEs and this was a similar price, I wouldn't have any problem shooting this bow. But let's go to the second-hand market. This bow is going to sell, let's say, for around $1,200. That's what he paid for it, around $1,200. At $1,200, it's a pretty good bow. I'm selling the Supras second-hand for about $1,000. That's what I'm getting for them second-hand. $1,000 for the old models, not the new models, because people aren't trading in the current model Supras. They're trading in the old to get the new. The old ones are selling for about $1,000, and they sell quite well at that price. This is $1,200. I think it rates well against the Supra. I think it's unique. Look, the flexible roller slide reminds me a lot like a Result. Now, my problem is, at $1,200, and this is the problem, a person comes in my shop and goes, what are you giving me trading for this bow? And I know it's $2,100, but it's a hard bow to sell. And it's hard because the Result is an $1,800 bow, which has got heaps of adjustability, lifetime warranty. As soon as you buy this, there's no warranty secondhand. So it's like, well, you are buying it at half price. Chances are nothing will ever go wrong on this bow because there's just not enough speed and energy going through it. And look, bows are pretty bulletproof. If you're going to break a bow, you're generally going to break it, if that makes sense. It's not the bow breaking itself. It's generally not a warranty. It's generally you dry fired the bow, you derailed the bow, you torqued the bow with your grip as you're pulling it off. You did that, and the bow, the strings flung off the cams, and it's generally you breaking the bow. You overpress the bow in a bow press, it's generally you breaking the bow. And I'm not getting out of warranties because I do probably 2 to 3 warranties a day. I'm just going to say, in my state, on bows I sell, I literally have no warranties. Literally none. Yeah, literally none. It's always, people who shoot once and they get the bow for the first time, the mate draws it back and lets go of it, and that's the majority of my warranties. So anyway, with this bow at about $1,200, I don't think it's a bad bow, and it's a bow I would be happy to buy at around the $1,200 mark secondhand, because it's an interesting bow. There's not going to be many of them around. I don't think Prime will produce this bow next year. In fact, I'd be surprised if they do a target bow. I wouldn't be surprised if they get out of the target market and just concentrate in their 3D market, their 3D hunting market, where they kind of dominate. Because to buy a target shooter, to sponsor them, and then promote the brand is hard. And like I sort of said in this video, if you give a $2,000 bow away, does the archer actually promote the product and say how good it is and actually sell the product? Because to give away one of these bows, you need him, the person, I'm going to say it's a guy, or a girl. If you're going to give a bow to a girl, they need to sell 10 bows. They need 10 people to buy that bow for them, because otherwise the maths doesn't make sense. And I'm going to say with most bow companies, Hoyt, PSE, Matthews, whoever give bows away, it's very hard to get that number. It's a very unique shooter who can get 10 bow sales. It's a very unique shooter because they need to promote the product. They need to tell people this is good. They need to be active. They need to be happy. They need to be helpful. It's a very unique person, because most of the top archers are very elitist and they just shoot by themselves and they're not thing. And that's not me having a go at the elite archers. It's just a very unique person who can sell 10 bows. Anyway, the Prime Black 9, I really like it. I think if you got one, I don't know if there's much point in changing from it. although you may want to try another bow. And you might want to try another bow because it's faster or more adjustable or something, or you just might want to try another bow. But I think you'd shoot great with this bow. It's a bow in 10 years, it'll still be a good shooting bow. It's the technology, the short limbs, the long riser, like this is the way bows are heading. They've been heading this way for a long while. The twin cams, although it's a gimmick, and it is a gimmick, it's a cool thing because you've got no cam lean. So it is a good thing. It's going to slow the arrows down, as you saw in the chronograph, a bit, but that doesn't really matter for target archery. It's going to be harder to make strings for this bow when you need strings made. It's going to take more work because there's 5 sets of strings on the bow. It's going to be more tuning to fit the strings, more headaches. But overall, the Prime Black 9 I really like. Really like the bow. I think it sits nice in the hand. Really like the grip, like the draw, like the way it shoots. Big fan. I'm Stephen Hand from Archery Supplies. The Prime Black 9. If you can get a shot with one, I would take a shot with one because I think it's a really nice bow. Thanks for watching. Bye.